differences between the races, end quote, including the genetic predispositions for diseases between the races. That is an agenda that we're going to talk about tonight in relation to the Rockefeller family, the Bush family, and the royal family of England, who were the principal political notables that funded the early eugenics movement in the 1900s, early 1900s. So the report from Iron Mountain, 1967 published, called for a direct eugenic management program and a comprehensive program of applied eugenics for depopulation, which is easily brought about by advances in space-based weaponry and genetic biotechnologies, genetics. The Human Genome Project. Tonight I'm going to expose who's really behind this project and its links to massive global depopulation, population control with fulfilling the report from Iron Mountain and its recommendation number 6. Both of these industries, by the way, as you'll learn tonight, they're controlled by the United States Department of Energy, as well as the British oligarchy through affiliated organizations and institutions. Now let me just, before we continue on, give you one last piece of introductory information that you need to begin to understand how this insidious war against humanity is being waged. That is, how we as populations are being enslaved covertly, economically, our communities, our families. How much money have your family lost to the medical deities, to the hospitals? What is the community's toll? What about the state or the nation? Ultimately, it was determined that if you really wanted to gain control over a nation state and ultimately take out its economic viability, is you would sicken the populations. Ideal plan through vaccinations to make the populations ill with chronic illnesses that required them to purchase what? Drugs, pharmaceuticals. So what we're really talking about when we talk about the global oligarchy, the global shadow governors, is those who direct not only the international banking community, but also what is called the military, medical, pharmaceutical, petrochemical cartel. Did you get that? It's one cartel. The military, medical, industrial complex, I'll read Eisenhower's quote in a minute, that he warned you about, is today, as it was in World War II, actually the military, medical, pharmaceutical, petrochemical cartel. Now, that cartel utilizes the most advanced ways of enslaving the population. That is, getting them sick and enslaved economically to the pharmaceutical industrialists. And that is called non-lethal warfare. And the Russian biological cocktail method of exposing targeted populations to combinations of chemicals first, and then biologicals, the chemicals wreaking havoc with the human immune system, leaving people weaker, more susceptible to chronic illnesses, opportunistic infections, and cancers. And then the biologicals then coming in, all laboratory creations, the chemicals, the toxic ingredients, and everything from the contaminated water that we're drinking, fluoride, chlorine, all done for public health, don't you know? Even though fluoride is a great rat poison, totally linked, as aluminum is, to brain damage, brain impairment, memory loss. A great way to dumb down the population is put fluoride in the drinking water. Hitler used it in his time. So ultimately, the water, the air, the chemical releases in the air that we discussed in the last program. Videos titled Star Wars Weapons and End Times Warfare that I laid out in the book, Death in the Air, Globalism, Terrorism, and Toxic Warfare. The chemtrail issue, which was legitimized by Ohio Representative Kucinich in his H.R. 2977. Subsequently, now it's called 3616. The Space Preservation Act of 2002 legitimized the fact that we are being sprayed within the context of the Strategic Defense Initiative and space-based weaponry, sprayed out of fuselages of jet planes with chemicals. We know we have a patent And we've reprinted the patent from the Hughes Corporation on aluminum oxide. Aluminum is linked to Alzheimer's disease, brain dysfunction. The water, the air, and the food that you're drinking, the dietary drinks and food substances, aspartame, one of the most toxic substances on the planet, is given the approval of the Food and Drug Administration. The federal drug advocates, I call them. America's population is simply obese. Simply obese because they've been made that way through the ingredients in many of your foods. If you drink diet beverages or eat diet foods, you are intoxicating yourself big time, and you are causing your major weight problems that way. It is an addicting and weight-bearing ingredient. Fulfills the Russian biological cocktail. And I suppose it's called the Russian biological cocktail method of intoxicating targeted populations because the Americans likely invented it with the support of the Brits. But the examples include, as I've mentioned, those pesticide sprayings allegedly done in the name of public health for the West Nile virus, and the vaccinations, as well as contaminated blood supplies. Now let me show you a series of murals. I've shown this a number of times. It's reprinted in the book, Death in the Air. I've put it out on a couple of other videotapes. It's urgent. I'm putting it out here as well. These are the murals from Denver Airport. Given the background I've just given you, you will be able to make sense of this, whereas thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people walk by every week and don't see anything. They think it's just pretty colors, artwork on the walls at Denver Airport, which is a Masonic temple, as I will show you in a minute. As you can see, here is a Nazi gas mask alien in the main terminal building as you're going to get your luggage from United Airlines or Northwest. You will see this Nazi alien wearing a gas mask. Where does this come from? An alien phenomenon wearing a gas mask, chemical toxicity, the links to IG Farben and the German industrialists who today, as I'm going to show you in this presentation later, are linked to the global cartel, the military, medical, petrochemical, pharmaceutical cartel. They were the ones who gave Hitler his funding and rise to power. So you see it's a Nazi gas mask alien sticking the dove of peace with his saber. The dove of peace, of course, a Christian symbol, the Muslim saber. It is a Muslim sword. And you see in the background a rainbow type effect chemtrail that's been waved by, and that is on top of or above the background images of genocide, mostly affecting black and Hispanic populations. Here's the gas mask alien a little closer up. You understand this by understanding the report from Iron Mountain and its links to the global petrochemical pharmaceutical industrialists. Here is the genocide in his wake, as I said, mostly black and Hispanic faces you see here. And here is a tribute to the extinct species of which you, if you are a Christian and or a Jew, or black, or a native, you are targeted for elimination. This is the tribute to the extinct species against a horrific backdrop of flames and destruction you see in the foreground, species that are no longer on the planet, such as the American buffalo, on the right side of your screen, the whale on the left, the ocean sea turtle, which in fact is an ancient black symbol and Sumerian symbol of spirituality. Notice that it is right next to a coffin bearing a beautiful black woman wearing native African attire representing the black people of the world dead.